Assalamu alaikum. During the last class, we discussed normally the agriculture priorities that we have as far as the development and the growth of the economy is concerned. What is the contribution that is made by the commercial banks as well as the State Bank of Pakistan? This was discussed. Primarily, it was the role of State Bank of Pakistan in the agriculture sector, because whenever any development has to be undertaken, it is through the financial institutions and ably supported by the central bank, which is the State Bank of Pakistan. Subsequently, when certain guidelines and principles are enunciated by the State Bank of Pakistan, it is always passed on down the line to the financial institutions. And no doubt, there is a specialized bank for the purpose to support the agricultural programs, but at the same time, the State Bank of Pakistan has passed on definite information and guidelines to all the commercial banks. They are playing a major role in the growth of the agriculture economy. So this is how the State Bank of Pakistan has an intervention as far as the agriculture development is concerned. Then, of course, it is the financing which plays a critical role in the growth. So naturally, as far as the financing is concerned, then there has to be a backup or a collateral, because it is as per the guidelines of the State Bank of Pakistan that no loan should be extended to the borrowers unless and until it is ably backed up by any kind of a collateral, which will be in shape of a landed property or any other property which can be liquidated in case there is a default as far as the borrower is concerned. Now, the question arises whether it is feasible as far as the extension of the financial facility to the agriculture sector, because there mainly the agriculturists are farmers who are mainly and solely dependent as far as the agriculture produce is concerned. This is not a cash flow based financing, because at the end of the season only they can return the finances. Accordingly, it is the State Bank of Pakistan which has further guided the commercial banks to charge various kinds of pricing from the intending agriculture borrowers. So there is a question here that is the markup rate fixed by the State Bank of Pakistan on agricultural loan? The answer in this direction is the State Bank of Pakistan does not fix any maximum or minimum markup rate to be charged on agricultural loan, because it is a policy of the government down the line passed on to the State Bank of Pakistan, and of course it is the State Bank of Pakistan which sees for itself as to how the economy is growing up. So naturally here as well the State Bank of Pakistan cannot fix a certain pricing for the agriculturists. Therefore, it is amply clear and evident that this SBP will not fix any markup rate or the pricing. We move further on. Banks' markup is based on their cost structure and risk profile of the borrowers in the sector. However, for benchmarking, Karachi Interbank Offered Rate, which is known as KIBOR, is used by banks for the purpose. This markup is solely the intermediation cost of the banks. Naturally, the bank spends a lot of money on incurring certain financial aspects as well when it extends financial assistance to the borrower. It has a cost. Who is going to meet the cost? Who is going to shoulder the pricing responsibility? Therefore, the banks alone are capable enough to assess and to evaluate as to what could be the intermediation cost, and subsequently they charge pricing or there is that markup evaluation. It is not the State Bank of Pakistan which further advises them as what could be the markup rate. A revolving credit scheme was introduced in 2003 in consultation with banks. Under the scheme, banks can provide finance for agricultural purposes on the basis of revolving limits for a period of 3 years with one-time documentation. Yes, this is a criteria which has to be established and it has to be adhered to by the borrowers, because it happens that once the documentation is complete, it is quite cumbersome as far as the completion of the documentation formalities are concerned, because they have to go to so many different departments and offices in order to procure a relevant paper or a document which they have to provide to the commercial bank or to any bank for the extension of the financial facilities. Therefore, for the convenience of the farmers, for the convenience of the growers, for the convenience of all those agriculturists who might be interested in this kind of a loan, they should provide the bank with the document, and of course that document would be valid for 3 years, and subsequently the financial facility can be extended to them. The agriculturists or the farmers or the growers, they will not have to run about in order to collect the documentation. So in order to ease the financial facility, they are asked to provide the documents once in 3 years. Further up, the borrowers are required to clear the entire loan amount, including markup, once in a year at the date of their own choice. Yes, of course, this is a prerequisite of the adjustment of the financial facility, because it is mandatory that in any case of financial facility being extended to the borrowers, whether it is a commercial loan or an agriculturist, he has to adjust the financial facility once during the year, so that a cleanup operation can be exercised. This, in the terms of the bank, is known as the cleanup operation, because it is assumed that so far as the financial facility is concerned, the banks can rely upon, because they can adjust the loan once during a year. It means that the entire scenario is alive, and there is a deposit of this financial facility once in a year, and again it is a withdrawal of the financial facility at the same year. So that is why it is mandatory for all the borrowers to deposit the finance that has been extended once at least in a year. Further up, multiple withdrawals are allowed, and the borrowers are also allowed to make partial repayments. Only the amount utilized by the borrower will attract markup. This facility can be availed by the farmers just like the running finance. The limits under this scheme are automatically renewed on annual basis without any request of fresh application. This is another privilege which is extended to the agriculturist, so that they may not have to again go to the bank and send and submit an application along with the documents that may be required, so that they may again apply for a fresh finance. No, this will not be the case, because it is renewed. The financial facility, once extended, can be subsequently renewed. And in this case, the entire documentation, as I told you earlier, will be intact as has been given earlier. So this can be utilized in shape of a running finance as well. In this particular kind of agriculturist finance which has been extended to them, the repayments can be made quite a number of times. As a matter of fact, several times during the year, and the amount that is being utilized by the particular borrower will be charged that markup. So it is, in case a running finance, which is also extended to the borrower. Now there arises another question, and what is that question? Is the credit facility under the revolving credit scheme available only on seasonal basis, that is for one crop only? Because normally it is understood that as far as the crop is concerned, that is according to the season. And once the financial facility has been extended, it will be valid only for the duration of one crop only. So there is this question. Let's see what the answer is. The credit limits under revolving credit scheme are available to the farmers for full 1 year. That is covering both the crops in a year. So that's the answer. The answer in this question is that the financial facility has been extended for a complete year. And it doesn't mean that it is extended for one crop only. So therefore, in a year, there are normally 2 crops. So in the entire financial facility is valid for 2 crops. So it is for a year and not for a single crop. Further on, to save the farmers from stress sale of their crops, they are required to clear their account only once in a year at a date indicated by the borrower and mutually agreed with the lending bank. So when this adjustment process is being considered, it is always the borrower have a common adjustment date, so that it may be adjusted with the prior consent of the borrower as well as the prior convenience of the borrower, because it is the borrower who has to pay, and when he has to pay, he has to understand the convenience that he has, whether he can repay at a particular time or not. The date is according to the convenience of the borrower. There is another issue that is there. Is there any system, procedure, under which farmers can get agricultural loans at the doorsteps? Of course, this is there to facilitate the farmers, because as far as the farmers are concerned, they may not be that aware as far as the loaning facilities are concerned, as far as the financing facilities are concerned, as far as the grant of loans at their doorsteps are concerned. Therefore, this is a facility which normally is extended by the commercial banks. They do not have to go through the hassle of running through pillar and post as far as getting the financial facility from the banks are concerned. Now, it is for their convenience. Let's see what the answer to this question is. Mobile credit officers and agricultural credit officers of banks are visiting the farmers regularly to ascertain the credit needs of the farmers and ensure its availability at their doorsteps, and also provide technical help for different crops. This is the obligation of the mobile credit officers in order to ensure that what they are doing, they approach a particular farmer and they at his doorstep would go and assess the needs of the particular credit requirement, and subsequently they would complete the entire documentation process, and when the documentation process is completed, they submit the application for the consideration of the financial facility. Now, it is the obligation of the mobile credit officer to keep them posted, that is the intending borrower, with the latest development of all what is happening as far as their application is concerned. Now, you could just well imagine what banks are doing as far as the financial facility being extended to the agricultural borrowers are concerned. Now, keeping in view this consideration, the banks have just formulated a comprehensive program as far as extension of financial facilities to the agriculturists are concerned. They provide all the more greater convenience than was expected before. And in consideration of this, there's another consideration which is there, and that the question that crops up in our mind would be whether landless farmers, tenants, can avail agricultural credit in the revolving credit scheme. Because earlier on I had discussed with you that the bank normally extends finance which are ably backed up by some kind of a collateral in shape of a land or in shape of some kind of a property. Therefore, now the answer to this question would be yes, agricultural credit under revolving credit scheme can be availed against personal surety, guarantee or any other collateral acceptable to the banks. The agricultural credit can of course be provided to any of the intending farmers or the growers without even the landed property as its collateral. It could be surety, it could be guarantee, it could be any other collateral which might be acceptable to the bank. So this is of course not a hard and fast rule as far as the bank is concerned, and while extending credit to the farmer. Of course, there are certain issues which needs to be tackled, and during this, there's another question that comes in our mind, and the question is, are farmers who had availed any concession or remission under government relief package announced from time to time eligible for fresh loans? Naturally, at times it happens that there is some kind of a natural calamity or a flood or some kind of a riot or a civil commotion or any unfavorable circumstances which has resulted in a commotion as far as the agriculturists are concerned. So there is this confusion in our mind. Once the facility has been extended to them, once this concession has been granted to them, are they at all eligible to avail further financial facility in shape of various kinds of concessions that are normally given by the financial institutions? So answer for this is yes. Borrowers who have availed concession under any scheme notified by the government or concerned bank, DFI, in the light of guidelines issued by State Bank of Pakistan may be eligible for fresh financing. The concessions that have been extended by the various government announcements from time to time in order to recoup and resustain the losses that might have been created on account of various natural calamities doesn't impose any restriction on the farmers or the growers to avail the financial facilities being extended by the commercial banks or any of the financial institutions. So naturally, this is a segment which needs to be understood, and as far as the agricultural credit is concerned, we have all along understood and discussed what the banks are doing, what the central bank is doing, what the government is doing. So naturally, everything is there in line with the government stated policies and monitored and supervised by the State Bank of Pakistan, because as far as the agriculturists are concerned, it has to be taken into consideration. They are considered to be the real backbone of our economy. As I have stated to you earlier, that 60% of our population is entirely dependent on what? On agriculture and its produce. So therefore, all efforts must be made and are being made as far as promotion of this sector is concerned. So you could just well understand what role these banks or the financial institutions are playing as far as the growth in our agricultural economy is concerned. So far, you might have got a very clear idea as to what the agriculture sector is and what these financial institutions are looking after and how they are looking after. So you must be having an idea by now. Now, there is another important aspect of our economy. Of course, it has grown over a period of time. It has grown over a period of years. It has grown because it has become now a requirement of our economy as well. Like as was the case with the agriculture sector, this is also an important issue. For most of the time, you could well understand for yourself that the people who are living in villages are now migrating over to the city side or to the urban areas. Why? Because of the growth and development as far as the industrial sector is concerned. And keeping this under consideration, there is, of course, the growth of the small and medium enterprises. This small and medium enterprises sector is considered to be mainly responsible for the influx of the people from the rural to the urban. So naturally, it has to develop as is expected, because the majority of the population, when they come to the city side or to the urban side, they are on a lookout for a job. And that job could always be provided in the government offices, in the offices of the private sector, as well as the manufacturing concerns. Unless and until the required infrastructure is provided, you can't expect the growth. So what now is SME or the small and medium enterprise? It is for us to examine and evaluate, and let's see for ourselves what is the role of this SME sector in our national economy. As defined by the State Bank of Pakistan, SME, small and medium enterprise, means an entity, ideally not a public limited company, which does not employ more than 250 persons if it is a manufacturing concern, and 50 persons if it is a trading concern, and also fulfills the following criteria of either A and C or B and C as relevant. A trading/service concern with total assets at cost, excluding land and buildings, up to rupees 50 million. Now, this is the criteria which has been enunciated by the small and medium enterprises that takes care of how it has been defined. There are various concerns which are broken up into various considerations, which I am there reading it out for you. A manufacturing concern with total assets at cost, excluding land and building, up to rupees 100 million. C, any concern, trading, service or manufacturing with net sales not exceeding rupees 300 million as per latest financial statements. ये requirement है जो कि small and medium enterprises के हवाले से ये इनका bifurcation किया जाता है. अब इनका क्या रोल है, किसका? SME का, जो small and medium enterprises है financing के हवाले से और hand holding पाकिस्तान के हवाले से. Now it is to be seen as to how this is going on. A research reveals that despite the lack of collateral, SMEs are a better credit risk, as the default rate of this sector is much below that of large enterprises. So we have seen now for ourselves that as far as the default rate, the people who are there want to establish as the small and medium enterprises, they obtain loans from this sector, and once they obtain the loan, they repay it as per the terms and conditions enunciated by this particular financial institution. Why? Because they are quite prompt, their repayments are ensured, their cash flows are quite regular, and when they are having the regular cash flows, how could you expect them to default? So, as compared to the large enterprises, as compared to other commercial banks and other financial institutions, the rate of default as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned, it is substantially low, and those who are obtaining this loan are in a position to repay as per the terms and conditions of the SME. Throughout the world, SMEs have provided tremendous opportunities to financial institutions to design various tools for the sector's development. For example, program lending schemes, credit scoring, venture capital financing, etc. Then there are clusters, technology parks and industrial estates, all being fueled by the dynamism and vibrancy of small and medium enterprises. Naturally, these small and medium enterprises are growing up. So there are certain financial institutions which are being undertaken to look after this sector as well. And not only this particular financial institution or a set of financial institutions, but the commercial banks on the whole, they are looking keenly as far as the extension of financial facilities are concerned. Because as I have told you earlier, that apart from the agriculture sector, this is a sector which is playing a critical role in the development of our nation's economy. And of course, this requires to have maintained a steady growth, and you could well understand the evidence of the steady growth in this aspect is concerned that the repayments are very regular. And once these repayments are regular, it means the economy is growing up steadily. Banking institutions running on Islamic principles are also experimenting with interest-free financial instruments. For example, Mudaraba, Murabaha, Ijara for this sector. Because nobody should understand that at least Islamic mode of financing cannot be inculcated in this sector as well. Because it is deeply understood that only the Islamic mode of financing is restricted to one sector alone. No, this is not the condition at all. Islamic mode of financing is involved everywhere. Wherever there is business, whether it is the agriculture sector or the industrial sector or the small and medium enterprises, you would always be finding it that Islam is always there and Islamic mode of finance is always there. Therefore, there is absolutely no need to panic under this situation as well. Small and medium enterprises or SMEs, also called small and medium-sized enterprises and small and medium-sized businesses or small and medium businesses or SMBs, are companies whose headcount or turnover falls below certain limits. This is understood because as far as the returns are concerned, as far as the headcounts are concerned, the criteria which has been enunciated to you earlier, that A, B, C is the criteria in order to bifurcate, in order to establish the particular SME sector. Of course, it is there, and accordingly, all the bifurcations can be there, and the financial institutions can have the obligation of extending financial facilities as well. And irrespective of the fact of the head counts, that as many number of people that are employed. But this is the criteria which can be ignored at times in order to further help, in order to promote whatever the small and medium enterprises is all about. The abbreviation SME occurs commonly in the European Union and in international organizations such as the World Bank, the United Nations and the WTO. The term small and medium-sized businesses or SMBs has become more standard in a few other countries. This may not be only considered a local phenomena, but it has risen to a global result. And everywhere, and especially in countries who are ably being governed by the World Trade Organization, you would find this expression quite commonly used. And of course, these enterprises are there in abundance. So it cannot be said that it is a localized condition. It is everywhere in most of the countries. European Union member states traditionally had their own definition of what constitutes an SME. For example, the traditional definition in Germany had a limit of 500 employees, while, for example, in Belgium, it could have been 100. But now the EU has started to standardize the concept. It varies because the head counts are there. in our local condition, there is a particular headcount which is there available. And of course, this in relationship to other countries may differ from time to time, as was the case in the European Union states, as was the case in Belgium, as was the case in Germany. So it varies, it depends. It depends upon the working conditions, it depends upon the environment, it depends upon the circumstances where this SME is being engaged in. Its current definition categorizes companies with fewer than 50 employees as small and those with fewer than 250 as medium. So there's another explanation. As far as the size of the SMEs are concerned, if it is, the head count is less than 50, it is small. If the head count is less than 250, it is medium. So it varies, it depends upon. So there is no need to panic about the head counts as far as determination of the size of the SME is concerned. Further on, by contrast, in the United States, when small business is defined by the number of employees, it often refers to those with less than 100 employees, while medium-sized business often refers to those with less than 500 employees. So there is a variation now. You could see for yourself. The example that was given of Belgium and Germany has a different set of headcounts. Well, when it is the case of United States of America, the headcount has totally differed. So there, of course, the situation varies because it is a tremendously large country. And when this situation is there, the headcounts naturally has to be a bit different. It has to be a bit large as compared to other countries which are not of the size of the United States of America. Therefore, there is not any need to worry about on this account. However, the most widely used American definition of micro business by the number of employees is the same of the European Union, less than 10 employees. At times there is a resemblance, at times there is a striking resemblance as far as the features of the small and medium enterprises when compared with the United States of America and other countries which are also adopting and practicing this SMEs. So it is just a case when these SMEs are ongoing. In most economies, smaller enterprises are much greater in number. In the EU, SMEs comprise approximately 99% of all firms and employ between them about 65 million people. So you could see for yourself what a tremendous ratio of the employment as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned. In the case of small and medium enterprises, you could see for yourself what the employment opportunities are and to what extent they are availing this facility. It is a facility, no doubt, because whenever you have this opportunity of an employment, it is always there to help you out. It is always there to rescue you. You cannot be without a job when you are there as far as the SME is concerned. So you could see the vast and the tremendous ratio of the employment which these small and medium enterprises are creating. So if the financial institutions are backing up, if the financial institutions are creating an all-round support for them, it is indeed incredible because they are engaged in providing a tremendous job opportunities to the people around. In many sectors, SMEs are also responsible for driving innovation and competition. Of course, with the growth of the economy and the growing world, of course, as far as the competition is concerned, it is always there. Because the element of competition is always going to give a sense of satisfaction to the people who are employed and engaged in the workforce. Because this is the competition alone which helps you out in order to have the desired achievement. And this competition alone would drive you efficient. So, of course, this competitive spirit is also inculcated by the SMEs. Providing SME finance and support is thus an important area of economic policy. So you cannot underrate, you cannot underestimate, you cannot belie the claims that the small and medium enterprises make that they are contributing a lot as far as the development and growth of the economy is concerned, because they are creating an employment opportunity, they are providing competition to the sector, and the brain drain which is taking place from the rural to the urban sectors or to the urban industrial areas, of course, would result in the betterment of our economy. So, as I have stated to you earlier, apart from the agriculture, this is an important segment as well, and it incorporates the resultant economic growth. So it is a major factor as far as the contribution in the development of the economy is concerned. And with this, we could just understand what is the significance of the small and medium enterprise, how far the development and growth is material. SMEs are considered the engine of economic growth in both developed and developing countries, as they provide low-cost employment, since the unit cost of persons employed is lower for SMEs than for large-size units. Assist in regional and local development, since SMEs accelerate rural industrialization by linking it with the more organized urban sector. Of course, this is a major contribution which is being undertaken as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned. हमेशा जब भी कभी आप किसी इकोनॉमी में आप देखेगा, एक छोटा छोटा सा जो ज़र्रा भी होता है, अगर पार्टिसिपेट करता है तो वो ओवरऑल वो इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी की तरफ ले जाता है. और अगर ये स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेज हैं, वो भी हमारी तरक्की की तरफ गामजन है, जिससे कि हमें अंदाज़ा होता है कि द रोल दैट इज़ बीइंग प्लेड बाय द स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेज इज इमेंस. फर्दर ऑन, help achieve fair and equitable distribution of wealth by regional dispersion of economic activities. Of course, it is a varied exposure. As far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned, it is not only restricted to one area alone. It is not only restricted to one sector alone. It is not only restricted to one job alone. It is quite diversified. You could find various people with various expertise they might be having are engaged in this particular sector. So you could well understand the diversification as well as the resultant economic prosperity contributes significantly to export revenues because of the low-cost labor-intensive nature of its product. This is the biggest advantage because as far as the cost is concerned, it is subsequently rated as low. And when the costs are low, the profits and the resultant maximization of profit is immense, because the export-oriented industry needs a lot of subsidies. In this case, as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned, the manufacturing or the trading or whatever production is required, it is having a low cost. And when there is a low cost, it means that you can have a high pricing as well. You could reap profits which otherwise may not be of great significance. Another consideration which is there as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned have a positive effect on the trade balance, since SMEs generally use indigenous raw materials. Yes, of course. The two considerations which I have already discussed with you initially is the balance of trade and the balance of payment. And when it is the case of the balance of trade, it is amply evident that as far as the small and medium enterprises are concerned, if it is a manufacturing concern, they are using the indigenously produced raw material which is there available within the local market. They do not have to register an import for the manufacturing process. How and why? Because whenever there is a low-cost production, it is always indigenous. And when there is a production, it means the cost will not be immense. It will not be an expensive proposition. Therefore, it is encouraging the balance of trade in our favor. Assist in fostering a self-help and entrepreneurial culture by bringing together skills and capital through various lending and skill enhancement schemes. Of course, the skill enhancement schemes are always there. And once these schemes play a role, it means that both the entrepreneurship as well as the raw material, they are available. And of course, the labor force which is available, it jointly contributes to the production in the small and medium enterprises. When there is that contribution, an effective contribution, it means that the low profit will not be there. And of course, the cost will be reduced to a considerable extent, giving you an enormous chance to make profit out of the manufacturing process in the SMEs. Another consideration, impart the resilience to withstand economic upheavals and maintain a reasonable growth rate, since being indigenous is the key to sustainability and self-sufficiency. Of course, it will make us quite self-sufficient, because whatever we are going to manufacture, whatever we are going to produce, whatever we are going to trade, whatever we are going to service, it is always there, locally produced. And once it is locally produced, we do not have to depend on anybody else. In order to maintain a total self-sufficiency, we are having an enormous growth as far as the SMEs are concerned. These small and medium enterprises play a critical role in the development and overall growth in the economy. But I would like here to point out that as far as the growth in economy is concerned, the SMEs are playing a pivotal role. But don't you think that they are having certain kinds of difficulties in the promotion of this sector? And what those difficulties are, it is to be highlighted and understood as well. Because nothing, as far as any growth is concerned, is always free of the difficulties. And of course, those difficulties need to be assessed. And let us be very confident that once those difficulties are removed, it is going to be a smooth trade all round. And it is an encouraging sector. So let us see what those problems or the difficulties are. Pakistan's economy has amazing potential for development, but sadly, we haven't been able to derive optimal benefits despite a series of efforts launched by various policymakers at different times. The impetus of all these endeavors was on the large-scale industries and manufacturing concerns. High rate of failures owing to economic slumps, institutional malpractices, political motives and damaging activities of labor unions in that sector left the formal lending institutions with huge infected portfolios. In addition to adverse effects on the entire economy, for example, insufficient and low-quality production to meet the demands of local and international markets, deficit in balance of payments, and ever-rising unemployment, etc. These are considered to be one of the major drawbacks that the small and medium enterprises are suffering from. और इसकी वजह से होता ये है कि ये सेक्टर जब ग्रो नहीं कर पा रहा होता, ये सेक्टर जब मुश्किलात में होता है, तो हमेशा उसका रिज़ल्ट क्या होता है? उसका रिज़ल्ट हमेशा बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड और बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट्स में पड़ता है. और जब तक ये मुश्किलात या दिक्कतें हमारे रास्ते से हटाई नहीं जाएंगी, यानी स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस के रास्ते से, तो आप ये कैसे तवक्को करते हैं कि ऑल राउंड परफॉर्मेंस इसकी एक्सेप्शनल होगी? कि आप ये ज़रूर समझिए, ज़रूर जहन में रखिए कि अगर ये मुश्किलात सामने से हटा दी जाएं, रास्ते से हटा दी जाएं, तो क्या ये एरिया फ्लरिश नहीं करेगा? ये तो बहुत तरक्की करेगा. और इसमें सिर्फ हमारी लोकल लेवल पे ही तरक्की मुनसिर नहीं है, बल्कि all-round growth in the economy is going to be affected by it. Pakistan's SMEs are still unable to achieve their maximum potential and are in dire need of hand-holding and business support services. Hand-holding here means that there must be some kind of a support which must lead the small and medium enterprises to its ultimate glory. And unless and until this is going to be adopted, I express my apprehension that this sector may give a neglected look, despite the fact that it has a vast potential, but still it needs to have that hand-holding and, of course, an ably supported hand which would take care of the potentials that are there in existence as far as the SMEs are concerned. A major challenge to economic policy in Pakistan at this time is to energize the private SME sector of the economy. This follows in part from the fact that other sectors are unlikely under present circumstances to provide the needed growth either of output or of reasonably remunerative employment. In fact, there will be a major employment challenge over the coming years as labor supply continues to expand rapidly and as neither the large-scale private sector nor the public sector are poised to create significant numbers of jobs. And though agriculture and the non-agricultural micro-enterprise sector can and probably will do so, the levels of productivity and hence of remuneration are likely to be unattractively low. So this is the major handicap, this is the drawback which the SME are experiences. Because unless and until they are in a position to provide attractive employment, I think nobody would dare come for this job opportunity here in the SMEs. Why? Because the sustenance of the living standards and of course the high cost these days would just be an impending factor on everybody to move away from this kind of a job opportunity, because everybody would like to have a role in an organization which would give them the desired impetus in their living standards. So here there is this kind of a drawback, and it needs to be looked after. By contrast, the SME sector does have substantial untapped potential to contribute to those objectives. Both economic logic and the experiences of other developing countries point to that potential, as well as providing evidence on how it may be achieved. A dynamic SME sector is an important complement to a more open economy. If we want the economy to grow, if we want our economy to prosper, if we want to have the desired standards as far as the economic growth is concerned, we must make it comfortable for the SMEs to grow as well. Whenever there is a growth, this is of course a chain, this is of course a resultant, this is of course a consequence, because unless and until this prosperity is there in the small and medium enterprises, you cannot expect a subsequent growth in our national economy as well. Therefore, this sector needs to be taken care of, and when this will be looked after, I believe, and you would see for yourself, the growth in the economic prosperity. In most of the countries which appear to have reaped major benefits from export orientation, the SME sector has been importantly involved in that process. Achieving the maximum contribution from SME, however, will require significant improvements in the support system. Of course, this is just to be understood, that as far as the small and medium enterprise is concerned, an able support is required, so that in order to shore up whatever is there as far as the SME is concerned, it is taken care of into consideration, and the SME will grow. If achieved, it will not only constitute an important source of dynamism in and of itself, but will also complement efficient large enterprise, strengthen the demand for agricultural products, and make it easier for micro-enterprise to graduate into the SME size range. If this is a able-supported body, lending support by the other organizations as far as the SMEs are concerned, the SME will grow into a fertile area, and everybody would like to come up and join such an enterprise in order to earn their living. Promotion of small and medium enterprises entails enhancement of the competitiveness of the economy and generation of additional employment. Of course, this is to our advantage, because as far as our economy is concerned, unless and until it is growing up, it has to grow up. And when and how it can grow up, it all depends upon the competitiveness that is there. And this competitiveness is always to be ensured in the growth of the economy and the small and medium enterprises. A thriving small and medium enterprise sector has long been recognized as one of the key characteristics of any prosperous and growing economy. If there are various considerations and examples which are to be seen here, we would always find that as far as the growth in a prosperous economy is concerned, the small and medium enterprise is playing a critical role in the development. So don't expect that if the SMEs are not growing, the economy would prosper, but expect that as far as the economy is concerned, it will grow automatically once the small and medium enterprises are growing up. So this is an obvious and a logical conclusion. Pakistan is an economy comprising mainly of SMEs. The significance of their role is clearly indicated by various statistics. According to more recent estimates, there are approximately 3.2 million business enterprises in Pakistan. Enterprises employing up to 99 persons constitute over 95% of all private enterprises in the industrial sector and employ nearly 78% of the non-agricultural labor force. They contribute over 30% to the GDP, rupees 140 billion to exports, and account 25% of exports of manufactured goods, besides sharing 35% in manufacturing value added. So this is how the small and medium enterprises contribute to the overall growth in our national economy. However, there has been concern that in Pakistan, the SME sector has not been able to realize its full potential. The SMEs continue to suffer from a number of weaknesses which hamper their ability to take full advantage of the opening of economy and the increasingly accessible world markets. The areas of constraints are normally identified as labor, taxation, trade capacity, finance and credit availability. Because as far as our potential here in Pakistan's economy is concerned, it is quite vast and it has to be exploited. It has to be explored as the required SMEs are not brewing up to the extent which would affect the positive growth of our national economy. It is understood that despite previous efforts, the SME sector has not received due priority on account of segregated efforts and non-consolidation of programs to achieve well-targeted results. In order to move forward, we need to develop a common vision for SMEs to be the real engine of growth. Our vision also needs to be achievable, so we may find motivation in implementing phase. This is, of course, a phenomena, because unless and until that required motivation is there, unless and until that required encouragement is there, how can you expect our economy to grow? So the innovation, the motivation is considered to be a known phenomena as far as the growth of small and medium enterprises are concerned. Implementing change requires the formulation of a policy for SME development and assigning specific responsibilities for its implementation and continuous improvement. The government of Pakistan has thus constituted the SME Task Force by notification number 168/2003 INV 111 of 29 January 2004 of the Ministry of Industries and Production, which is to define the basic elements of our SME policy. The government is also playing a critical role as far as the growth and the development of the SMEs in our economy is concerned, because unless and until it is supported by our government, we cannot expect to grow to that extent. Because in the larger interest of our economy, in the larger interest of the country, in the larger interest of the nation, unless and until we have an all-out support to develop this small and medium enterprise business, we cannot expect to grow it alone. Therefore, all-out support is needed. As there are many cross-cutting issues to be addressed, the SME Task Force is composed of diverse sectors and levels of government and includes major stakeholders of the private sector and SME in particular. Where the SME Task Force deems it necessary or useful, it may invite specific organizations or individuals to assist its work. It may also co-opt further members. It is an organizational effort. It is to be considered an organizational support, because the task force too has been created. And what is that task force? It is being enunciated the various guidelines in order to support the small and medium enterprise sector. Because unless and until there is a proper guidance, there is a proper streamlining of the issues, there is a proper motivation, innovation, and all what is required as far as the development of our economy is concerned, we should not expect to have any growth as far as the small and medium enterprise is concerned. This small and medium enterprise should not be restricted, and as I have said, that unless and until enable support is rendered to this SME sector, we cannot expect our economy to bring laurels for everyone. So it has to have a support. Now, during the course of our lecture, during the course of our discussion, we have discussed earlier on the agriculture and the economy of Pakistan. How both of them are related, how the agriculture sector is playing a dominant role in the growth of the economy has to be seen and was discussed. It is a food of thought as far as you are concerned, because I am sure 100% that when you are discussing the national economy, you would be thinking that what the agriculture sector is doing for us. So you could well understand that 60% of our population is extending our help. And as far as the growth in the agriculture sector is concerned, it is there and we have to support it. Then various kinds of the credit facility which is being extended to the needy farmers and villagers was discussed. Subsequently, the role of the agriculture sector is being and has been discussed. Subsequent to that, what other factors are there which is contributing effectively to the development and the overall growth of our economy is concerned. And in that, the role of the small and medium enterprises comes into the picture. What is an SME has been discussed with you, and the SME sector in the world. It is the global phenomena and it is not locally restricted. So what is the role of the SMEs in Pakistan? There too was discussed and highlighted. You could well for sure understand for yourself that it is not only one sector alone which is contributing to our national economy. It is not only one financial institution alone that is contributing to our national economy, but it is the entire setup which is contributing towards the overall growth and achievements of our national economy. So now the SME sector too is playing a dominant role in the development and the overall growth as far as our economy is concerned. Then there are certain international financial institutions which are playing a pivotal role in the development and the overall and the all-round growth of our national economy. And what is the role which is being played by these institutions towards the development of our industrial growth is the development of the small and medium enterprises. So for the development of the SME sector, there were certain various steps which are being taken and understood. An overall perspective has been discussed with you vis-a-vis the agriculture and the small and medium enterprises. It has given you now a concrete picture and has shaped you up to understand and appreciate what all is happening in our national perspective. So we restrict ourselves to this aspect alone here, only to meet in the next lecture. Khuda Hafiz until then.